I am morbidly curious to see, because it's 20 freaking minutes of this movie. It sounds like there's some dark stuff that got cut. There's some more mature-oriented things that got cut, so on and so forth. So, hello, nerds! This is The Week in Nerdom. I am Dustin. These are the things that are worth talking about in nerd culture. It's a huge episode, I'm warning you right now. So, before we get into the actual news or the intro or anything like that, don't forget to smash that like button, do all of the things, subscribe if you haven't already, because I have a fair amount of you that aren't subscribed. Go do that. If you're listening on the audio portion, then you should still be subscribing. What's wrong with you? Just subscribe. It's free. It's wonderful. Here's an intro. All right. And it is another episode of the Nerd News. I don't think there's any housekeeping to get out of the way other than the obvious. Again, if you're just listening to this, still sounds a little bit different. My box situation hasn't really changed since last episode. Hopefully this weekend will be a big change as far as all that goes, and I'll be able to set up this actual set a little bit more, not the least of which being better sound. Anyway, so yeah, that's all we really got for housekeeping. Things are rolling. We are jumping right into the music section. Music for this episode is decent. We have no follow-ups or corrections. We do have some actual news. We have a new festival, kind of. It's called Viragos. Not exactly sure what Viragos is, as far as like the word itself, but it is a festival / cruise that will be taking place next year, so 2022. Beginning in February, the 16th, I believe, is the date of the festival, and then there is a tour, a 3-hour tour. No, it's a cruise, rather. The cruise takes place over the course of, I believe it was 3 days. Again, I take amazing notes. The big piece of this, though, is who is going to be headlining the cruise. Those headliners are Mastodon, Rob Zombie, and Chevelle. So a very interesting collection of music, for sure. Our next piece of actual news kind of technically is a follow-up because it deals with the band Bad Wolves. Bad Wolves, if you remember, had their old lead singers, a man named Tommy Vext. Tommy Vext is uber conservative and apparently also very religious, and some sort of combination of those two things did not sit well with the rest of his band. Yes, he did say some crazy on the internet, like you do. But yeah, so very interesting situation there, but that's done and over with. We've already discussed it. They have just announced their new vocalist. New vocalist is a man named Daniel, I'm not going to pronounce this last name correctly, and I apologize. Daniel Laskowitz, goes by DL apparently, and he actually is former guitarist and founding member of the Acacia Strain. So be interesting to see what he brings to the table when it comes to vocals. Our other piece of news in the music section is Kiss. Apparently, according to Paul Stanley, there is in fact a Kiss biopic that is pretty far down in the development cycle, actually. There is a script, and he has read it, and he said it is going to be, quote, oh, where's the quote? Really good. Oh, this is going to be a train wreck. A train wreck, I tell you. Anyway, so yeah, if you're a Kiss fan, that's probably great news. Otherwise, that's probably a little scary to think about. I'm in the latter camp, but that's just me. And then we have a couple of tours that got announced over the last couple of days. First up is Atreyu heading out starting November 9th in Dallas. The tour is 29 dates. They are going on tour with Defying Decay, Tetrarch, Crown the Empire, and Saul. I honestly have never heard of any of those bands, except for kind of in passing Tetrarch, so we'll see what goes on there. I am still trying to get an interview with the guys in Atreyu. I've been in contact with their management a number of times, and so hopefully this time out, we will get an interview with at least one of the guys in the band. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get the whole band, but that remains to be seen. Our next tour that was announced over the last couple days is Clutch, 30 Years of Rock tour. This is actually not a new tour. This is a tour that they started pre-pandemic. It's just now technically continuing. There are 21 new dates that start in September 8th in Virginia. They're going out with a couple of different support. Each of these bands supports the tour for a handful of dates. I think it was like 8 dates each approximately. And they are Stoner, King Buffalo, and Telekinetic Yeti, and The Native Howl. I actually have a link for you if you want to get tickets for Clutch. Go down into the show notes, the video description, whatever, and check that out because, clutchontour.com is the place to go. And then our final tour that was announced over the last couple of days is an anniversary tour for Three Doors Down. Apparently 20 years ago, so 2001. I actually think this one got moved. I didn't see that in the announcement necessarily, but I feel like it was 2000. I could be wrong. It's the anniversary of their debut album, The Better Life. They will be on a tour being supported by Seether and Theory of a Dead Man, which both of those bands make a whole lot of sense. And it starts June 26th, and they will be going for 42 dates. So odds are, if you are a fan of any of these bands, then they will be coming very close to you very soon. That is all we have for the music section. Gaming and Tech is up next, and in Gaming and Tech we have one follow-up starting things off. And actually, now that I think about this, this might not be a follow-up because it's not exactly what I thought it was. We talked about the Twitter subscription service, but that was the subscribing to content creators side of things. This is subscribing to Twitter announcements. So it's called Twitter Blue. They've rolled it out in Canada and Australia, which is a strange collection of places to roll this out in alpha. It's a subscription service that costs you about $3 US, and even so, it's still going to have ads, so I don't know exactly. They haven't told us what the new features are going to be if you are part of Twitter Blue, but apparently there are going to be different things that you can do with your Twitter if you join up for Twitter Blue. So maybe it'll be worth it because, again, the ads aren't going away. So why would I want to pay $3 to have a Twitter account? $3 a month to have a Twitter account just doesn't seem to add up. We will definitely be keeping tabs on this as we get closer to a more widespread rollout. And right now, it's also only on iOS. So if you are in Canada or Australia and you're part of this beta, that means you have iOS and an Apple phone. Apple device, I guess, is the more appropriate term. They are working on the Android app for this, as well as, again, rolling out in more countries than just the two. We will see if this is a good idea for Twitter. Next, we're talking about actual gaming news, and this one is not video games. This is actually tabletop, which we do cover here on the show from time to time when there's something big that's happening in tabletop, and tabletop is getting much more interesting these days, especially now that Marvel is rolling out another tabletop RPG. Marvel just a couple of years ago rolled out their first D616 based RPG. D616 is the system that Marvel has created for their own personal tabletop games. This one is, I'm going to say it wrong, so I got to read it. The Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. It's a big mouthful. It's all simple words, but man, big mouthful. So there are very little details known about this, aside from obviously if it's a multiverse game, then it's going to deal with the multiverse. And it's Marvel, so all of the Marvel characters. Maybe not the Hulk, but that's all changing, isn't it? We'll get to that. It's going to be rolled out in 2022 sometime, and again, going to be based on their D616, which obviously is a reference to the Earth Prime number 616 as assigned to our Earth in the comics. Our last piece of gaming and tech news has to do with another comic book house. This time it's Dark Horse, though. Dark Horse has just announced a games division. It's going to be called Dark Horse Games. It's going to be the digital branch of Dark Horse Comics. So they're going to not only get into actual video games, but also into digital entertainment media. So webtoons are being planned. Actual series on streaming platforms are being planned, so it's a little bit more than just gaming, but gaming seems to be where they're going to focus, as they have multiple projects. According to the announcement, multiple projects are in the works, multiple irons in the fire, if you will. They are creating relationships with development studios that can actually do the footwork of developing games for them, and then they give their sign of approval, they give the license to use their characters, so on and so forth, and then we get to play fun games. Hopefully. We shall see if that is the way things go. But that, my nerds, is gaming and tech for this episode. Now we get into comic books and books. This is actually a little bit more sizey than I was anticipating for the rumor-centric episode. First up, we do have one follow-up. Every year it's a follow-up, Free Comic Book Day, because it happens every year. This year, Free Comic Book Day is going to just be one day. It will not be a week or a month, whatever it was that happened last year. It is going to be just one day, and that one day is August 14th, because I believe it was while I was in the middle of the move that this was announced. I was unaware, so I'm assuming there's plenty of you out there who are unaware. August 14th, go to your local comic book shop and you will have the opportunity to get some free comic books. So go check that out. Moving into the news for this section, we do have DC Horror is announced, a new imprint label for DC Comics. DC Horror. The first book that they're going to be launching is a prequel story to the new Conjuring movie, Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It. The name of the comic book that is the prequel for The Devil Made Me Do It is The Lover. I literally, right before I started filming, as I was finishing the research, literally just watched Devil Made Me Do It, and I honestly don't know where this comic book is going to fit. It is a prequel, so I do know that much, but inside this lore, the lore seems a little messy to me, but hopefully the comics will help iron that out. This is just the first book. It is coming out... I did not write the release date on there, so that's silly. If you're watching, I will put it on the screen because I have to find it. Otherwise, go check it out. It's probably on shelves soon because the movie's out already. Our next piece of news in this is a little spoilery for the Star Wars Bounty Hunters, War of the Bounty Hunters, rather, comic that is on shelves right now. You can go pick up issue number 1, and you can see that Crimson Dawn is back in the Star Wars universe. We have more Crimson Dawn action, the crime syndicate from the Solo Star Wars movie. As well as the Hutts and Bib Fortuna. And I just wanted to touch on this because I feel like this is Star Wars and Lucasfilm trying to course correct for what they've done, for what a large swath of the fan base is perceived to have been wronged against them. So hopefully they do this well, because Boba Fett is kind of hard to screw up, but if anyone can do it, it's going to be Disney, let me tell you. Anyway, so yeah, go check out issue number 1 for Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters. It's on shelves right now. You can grab it from Comixology on Amazon, all that jazz. Not sponsored, just a great book. Moving right along, we're talking next about some new books that have been announced by Marvel, first of which is Hulk. This is going to be another proper Hulk, that not the Immortal Hulk. Immortal Hulk story arc is coming to an end very soon. That story arc will be ending in November, and then Danny Cates is coming over from the Venom book to write Hulk. This is going to be a Bruce Banner Hulk once again, and in the kind of synopsis, I'll give you the Reader's Digest TLDR version. Basically, Bruce believes he's found a better way to control the Hulk. And we all know how wonderfully that usually ends up, so the synopsis teases that maybe this will be the end of the Hulk. No. It's comic books. It's not the way things happen. So it'll be an interesting read. Danny Cates is, nothing super awesome, and definitely not a bad writer. So, I don't know, maybe he's got something original to bring to this. There's a lot of potential here, but we shall see. Moving right along these same lines, we do have another new book. Since Danny Cates is leaving Venom, we have a new creative team jumping on to the Venom book. And also Ryan Otley is working on that Hulk book with Danny Cates. This new team for Venom is Al Ewing, Ram V, and Brian Hitch are the creative team that are writing the new Venom book. Very interesting situation right now with Venom. Eddie Brock is back, as well as Flash Thompson. Eddie Brock is wearing the symbiote currently, as he is the god symbiote, effectively god of the symbiotes, whatever. But Flash Thompson recently came back from the dead, so let's see what happens, man. Let's do this. This definitely has the potential to be a great Venom arc, so hopefully they follow through. We shall see, but that is everything we have for comic books and books. Now we jump into TV streaming. We do have a couple of announcement follow-up kind of situation for a series, technically a couple of series that we've been keeping tabs on. They are the American Horror Story series. So American Horror Stories has announced that their premiere date will be July 15th. It will be a double episode, and they are going, remember, to the FX on Hulu, I believe. And then American Horror Story, the mainline series, is going straight to FX on broadcast or on the basic cable, whatever. The premiere date for that is August 25th. This is going to be the double feature story, remember? The one with Macaulay Culkin that takes place on a beach somehow. That's all we really know. That's the announcement. We also have one other follow-up, and it is Y: The Last Man. We've been keeping tabs on this series for so long at this point. It feels so gratifying to finally have a premiere date for Y: The Last Man. The premiere date on Hulu, again, effects on Hulu, is going to be September 13th for the first episode. No announcement, but you can assume that it is going to be one episode a week, because that is how they are generally want to do over there. That is what we have for follow-ups. Now let's get into the actual news. And the actual news, it's kind of slow, but I warned you this might happen in the last video, in the last episode, rather. We have one piece of actual news for TV streaming, and that is Baker's Dozen. Another Hulu show. This time we're talking cooking shows, baking shows to be specific. It's very much in the same vein of the Great British Bake Off, only this one presumably is American. The hosts kind of noteworthy is Tamara Mowri-Housely. Oh, Lord. From Sister Sister. You know, Tia and Tamara Mowry. Well, Tamara has grown up and is now hosting. She got married, so she's got a hyphenated last name. And now she's hosting a baking show. The actual baker that is going to be joining her is a man named Bill Yosses. It starts with a Y, not a J. And I'm unfamiliar with him, but I'm also kind of unfamiliar with a lot of famous bakers because I'm not a baker, I'm a chef. They are joining the likes of David Chang, who is one of my culinary idols. David Chang's show on Hulu right now is The Next Thing You Eat, and then Padma Lakshmi also has a food show on Hulu called Taste the Nation. So they are in pretty good company with those two. David Chang is brilliant. If you're into food at all, you should be watching everything that man does. Listen to his podcast too. It's fantastic. The David Chang Show. So yeah, that is TV streaming, nerds. I don't know. That's all we got. Now let's get into movies. Movies was a little bit bigger than anticipated, so, I mean, it is what it is, but let's jump into it. First up, we do have some follow-ups. Shazam! Fury of the Gods did do a reveal of the new suit for Shazam, and it looks pretty freaking good. Looks a lot closer to the comic book, circa like late 90s, early aughts kind of time. Another follow-up we have is Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness / Loki. Rolling Stone has proof that what we got in WandaVision and what we're going to get in Doctor Strange and what we could have gotten from Loki has all been changed pretty dramatically at the very end of the airing of WandaVision into the creation and filming of Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. And for reasons, man, there's we're not going to get into social politics here, but that's what it seems like are the reasons, are social political reasons and not reasons that benefit the story, because Feige is saying that the reason Doctor Strange was written out of the end of WandaVision is because he didn't want Doctor Strange to save Wanda. He wanted Wanda to shine on her own, and it's not really what we got now, is it? And there's a way to have done that. There's a way to have brought in Doctor Strange at the end of WandaVision and not had him be the white man savior. He could have come in and tried to fight Wanda. He could have come in and tried to set this world straight and then had Wanda overpower it. There's so many. This is lazy, socially, politically motivated garbage. And that's where we're going to leave that one. We're moving next into our last piece of follow-up news, and that is Thor Love and Thunder has officially wrapped on principal photography. Sorry, I know that word. Yeah, so that's pretty big news. Now we go into post, and then we go into all the marketing, and then we go into reshoots, and so on and so forth. So we still are a little ways away from the movie being done and ready to hit theaters, but this is a pretty big milestone, so it is newsworthy. Now we're moving into actual news, and what we have starting things off is Broken Earth. The Broken Earth trilogy of books has been optioned by Sony for production purposes to be made into movies. The author of the books, NK Jemisin, is going to be the one who pens the screenplays for the movies as well. So that's pretty awesome. Stephen King, J.K. Rowling, not a whole lot of authors have been able to do this. So that's pretty significant. I am not myself well acquainted with the Broken Earth trilogy. I am familiar with its existence. Couldn't tell you what it's about, really. I've never read it. I am interested, though. So maybe one day when I get through my stack of books that I'm reading or need to read still, I will get into that. But we're moving on. Our next and last piece for movie news is Super Mario Brothers? That's right. The movie that came out in 1993 is in news today because there's apparently a director's cut of this movie that was lost to time. And somehow, some way, some fans had a copy of the VHS version of the director's cut. And for the last, I believe it's 3 years, they have been working to restore the lost 20 minutes, extra 20 minutes of the director's cut. They have done this. It is completed. You can go watch this. I believe it's free, but though don't quote me on this because I haven't followed the link all the way through yet, but it is at the Internet Archive. You can find the link to it to hopefully watch it down in the show notes / video description. I am morbidly curious to see, because it's 20 freaking minutes of this movie. It sounds like there's some dark stuff that got cut. There's some more mature oriented things that got cut, so on and so forth. So yeah, this is gonna be the response portion. Let's have a conversation about that, because over the course of the next week, I would imagine I will have the time to watch that version of this movie. So let's have that conversation, won't we? If you're on one of the audio outlets and you're listening to this, find me on the socials. Generally nerdy on pretty much everything. Just look for the Nerdy Ninja. That's me. And yeah, that's what we have for the movie section there, nerds. And now, as promised, this is a rumor-centric episode, so we have a bunch of rumors to discuss, and they run the gamut. Comic books, video games, I'm pretty sure I even have tech stuff in here, whatever. So let's go first into confirmations and refutations. We do have a refutation for some Nintendo Switch Pro rumors. Actually, it's not a rumor, it's a reported leak. And if you have seen the image that is on the screen, if you are watching, but if you're not watching, I will describe the image for you. It is a white Nintendo branded screen, and then in the corner of the image there is a white controller, looks like a Joy-Con controller, and it's kind of out of focus, like they usually are when they're quote-unquote leaks. Well, I say quote-unquote because the person who created this fake image has recently come out and said, yeah, it was me. I did it. It was me all along. I killed the dog too. Sorry, WandaVision throwback. So yeah, that is not what the PlayStation or the Nintendo Switch Pro looks like. That is also not confirmation that such a thing actually exists. It is still very much rumor as to whether or not a Pro Switch will be released ever. So yeah, that's all we have for confirmations and refutations. Let's get into the actual rumors. Starting things off, we're talking about Jupiter's Legacy. All right, so the reason I put this in rumors and not in TV streaming is because Netflix has not officially made the announcement themselves, A. B, the announcement that we did get is from Mark Millar, so pretty dang near official, though it's not the announcement that everybody's making it out to be. Mark Millar has said that the actors that were in season 1 have been released from their contracts. Now, generally, yes, this does mean that a show is not coming back, though Mindhunter did something similar, and now we're hearing rumblings that they're finally re-signing those contracts and coming back for a final season of that series, and that is also a Netflix show. So, and also in Mark Millar's quote-unquote announcement, he said that they are going to eventually come back as far as he knows. He didn't use those words exactly. I feel like there's a fair amount implicit there, but still, if you are taking at face value what was said, then cancellation is not exactly what happened. They are postponing to such a degree that they are letting the actors get other work in the meantime, and then when they decide they're ready for a second season, that's when they'll bring those actors back. That is the announcement that was made. So still, we do not know 100% until Netflix makes it known. So I'm going to put this one very, very firmly in approximately 90%. I know I said very firmly and then approximately, but yeah, I am 90% positive because they did dump $200 million into this show, and it did release as one of the, if not the highest, most popular streaming thing for that week that it first came out across any streaming platform. It was the most popular. So I feel like the return on investment for Netflix should be there because of that information. So I can't imagine they're going to ditch this entirely. Also in the report, Millar said that they will be continuing in this universe. They're just going to a different side of the universe. The Super Crooks book, which takes place in the same universe as Jupiter's Legacy, is going to be the next series that they work on. It is going to be an animated series, so presumably it's going to be much cheaper than $200 million. Probably so Netflix can recoup some of the losses, because I would imagine that they broke even, maybe made a little bit of money, but not as much as they were hoping with that $200 million. So yeah, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Don't believe the hype. Moving right along, we have a new DC Comics rumor, and this one's not really new. This is just, it's coming from so many different places at this point, we must address it. So, the Warner Brothers Discovery merger has put a lot of things in some gray area. NetherRealm, the studio that develops Mortal Kombat, is kind of in this gray area as well, but the biggest gray area is DC Comics, which Warner Brothers owns. Warner Brothers Media owns DC Comics. Kind of like Disney owns Marvel Comics, kind of. It is like Disney owns Marvel Comics. So, the word is that AT&T is very unhappy because comic books are not as profitable as they once were. So they're going to let DC flounder and lose them money until they are able to sell DC to the highest bidder, which means that there is a potential that Marvel could buy DC Comics. According to the rumor. Emphasis on rumor, because if they sell the comics, that creates such a weird gray area that I don't think studio types are want to deal with, that I can't believe that they're going to sell off just the comic book side and still maintain the movie rights to these entities. So Batman is now property of Marvel or whoever decides they want to buy DC, unless you're talking about the movie rights, in which case it stays at Warner Brothers. I feel like Warner Brothers Production and AT&T above them and whoever else, Discovery, is involved, isn't going to like the miscommunication, the confusion between the two of them. So just doesn't ring true to me. There is a lot of weird going on at Warner Brothers these days, so I cannot 100% say this is not going to happen. So we'll say a likelihood that Marvel can buy DC, or Disney rather, could buy DC Comics. I'll put it at about 20%, and that's even generous, I feel like. My heart of hearts wants to say 5 to 10%, but we'll be lenient and say there's a 20% likelihood that this will actually come to pass. Our next rumor has to do with Bioshock 4. Sony is reportedly looking to buy the exclusivity rights for the PlayStation 5. Now, this is not necessarily out of the realm of possibilities for any one gaming production company, the video game console production company. And also, considering it's Sony, like, they've done this with multiple other games, so it also lines up with this. Now, the rumor is that Sony wants to do this, not that Sony is going to do this. So just because Sony wants to buy those rights does not mean that those rights are going to be bought. So likelihood that Sony wants to buy exclusivity rights to Bioshock 4? Yeah, 95% likelihood that they want this to happen. Is this going to happen? I don't know. Money talks, man. So I'll put the "is this actually going to happen" side of this right about 45, and I feel like that's low because I don't want it to happen. But there is a strong possibility for this because Sony kind of prints their own money in certain ways. So not like Disney, but man, they're getting there. So that's what we've got on that. Next, we're talking about the next iteration of my favorite video game franchise, Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 12 is in the rumor mill because I hate people. That's why. No, Mortal Kombat 12 is in the rumor mill because according to the quote-unquote leaker who leaked this information, they are going to be incorporating story elements from the movies into the game for Mortal Kombat 12. No, that's not how this works. Okay, so specifically with the Mortal Kombat franchise, the movies borrow pieces of the game, and that's the most generous way to put that. Now, I love the movies. I especially loved the new movie, for sure. There are some really, really harsh shortcomings of all three Mortal Kombat, live-action Mortal Kombat movies, but still hold a very dear place in my heart. However, the thought that Ed Boon and company would incorporate anything from those movies into their game does not ring true to me at all. Now, there are, like I said in my Mortal Kombat review, there are certain things that I think they could embrace in their own way, specifically the invitation system that they created for the new movie. I feel like that was pretty brilliant if incorporated the way I know NetherRealm could do it. Now, just because I think that's smart and just because I think it would be okay to incorporate such things into the game does not mean such things will be incorporated into the game. It's just not the way this relationship works. So the leaker for this is somebody who has had some quality information before, though everyone who calls themselves an insider, quote unquote, or a leaker, quote unquote, usually gets more than half of their information wrong, and this is definitely on that wrong side. So is Mortal Kombat 12 going to incorporate information from the game, from the movies? No. And also, it should be noted that the next game NetherRealm does is not going to be Mortal Kombat 12. It's likely going to be Injustice. Hopefully, we will get some sort of action-adventure game in the vein of Shaolin Monks. Probably an HD remaster of Shaolin Monks, something like that. Shaolin Monks was trending on Twitter because of something that Ed Boon asked for like 2 days. Yeah, there's no way that the next actual game is going to be Mortal Kombat 12. It's just not going to happen. So how would any information about a game that is nowhere in development going to be leaked? It just doesn't make sense. All right, I've spent too much time on this. We have to move on. Next, we're talking about Darth Maul. So there is apparently going to be a Disney Plus series based on the Sith Lord. The interesting part about this rumor is that it is not going to be spinning off from Solo. It is going to be spinning off from the upcoming Lando series. So Lando apparently is going to deal with, in some shape or fashion, Darth Maul. Darth Maul then is going to get his own series, much like everyone else in the Star Wars universe is these days, according to this rumor. Now, this comes from that same leaker, so take it with a grain of salt. There does seem to be a couple of nuggets of truth because they are trying to distance themselves from the Solo movie, because Solo is the only Star Wars movie that's ever lost them money, so that makes sense. I say that everyone in the Star Wars universe is getting their own or their own series because it seems that way, and it's hyperbole because it's funny. It's not the actuality of the situation. Maybe a few years down the road, we can say that with a little more confidence and it'll be a little more accurate in that statement, and it won't be quite so hyperbolic. But as it stands right now, no. A Darth Maul series, as awesome as that would be, very likely not going to be the case. Now, is Darth Maul going to factor into something that spins off of Lando? That is more likely. Yeah, I would buy that. But Darth Maul as the main character? No. So likelihood we will get a Darth Maul series, I'm going to put that at about 10%. Likelihood Darth Maul is going to factor heavily into the near future of the Star Wars universe. I'll put that at about 65 to 70%. And we're moving on. Our next piece has to do with The Flash. There are some pretty hardcore signs that Season 8 is going to be the last season of the CW's longest-running superhero show, The Flash. That's right, the Arrowverse, named after the Arrow TV show, is erroneously named. It should be the Flashverse because Flash has lasted longer than Arrow ever did, by at least 3 seasons. Likelihood that this is the case, I'm going to put that right about 70% as well, because contracts are a thing, and by now all of these actors should have signed on for new contracts to go beyond season 8, and that has not happened. A number of actors are actually leaving during season 8, and we know they're leaving, so there's like I said, there's signs here that point to this direction. When we will hear the official announcement, probably I'll give it 3 months, but I would be surprised if we get a season 9 for The Flash. Our next rumor has to do with Wedding Crashers 2. I have seen places reporting on this as if it were actual fact. I assure you, my friends, it is not. For those comedy nerds out there, Wedding Crashers 2 is something of a modern classic. Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson kind of knocked it out of the park with that one, so much so that they have done multiple movies together trying to capitalize on that chemistry that they created for the first Wedding Crashers movie to varying degrees of success. I'll be nice and say it that way. So the best of the movies that they have done together is now reportedly getting a sequel. According to the rumor, Isla Fisher and Rachel McAdams are also coming back, not just Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. So what's the likelihood here? All of these actors separately have said that they would love to revisit these characters. So it is not out of the realm of possibility. We have not heard from any studio saying that there is interest in doing this. Hopefully, my hope is that the reason for that is because they saw Anchorman 2 and they saw all of these other sequels to these movies that did amazing, and then the sequel was like, yeah, okay, that happened as well. Though my logical brain says it did make a lot of money, it's easy to do comedies, they might be trying to do a little bit of a cash grab, but hopefully they will have an original story to tell and not just rehash the first one. So likelihood that we will see a Wedding Crashers 2 in the future, I'll put that at about 60%. I feel like it's a little stronger than halfway there. Now, the rumor does go on to say that they are actually about to go into production, active production of this movie. That seems much slimmer possibility than the potential of a future version of this movie. So, the likelihood that they're about to go into actual production of said Wedding Crashers 2, we're gonna do 25% that's going to happen. I've even read one version of this rumor saying within the month they will be filming this movie. We haven't gotten an official announcement from the studio. No, that's not how Hollywood works. No. Wedding Crashers 2, probably. Wedding Crashers 2 this year? No, nuh-uh. Next, we are moving on to The Batman. That's right, Robert Pattinson's shiny Batman. No, he's not going to sparkle, I promise. So we're not going to talk about the rumor that it's so terrible that Warner Brothers is going to push it back to 2023. That probably deserves a whole episode unto itself. We're not going to touch on that. Anyway, this rumor says that because this Batman is going to be a technical Elseworlds story from anything else that Warner Brothers wants to do with these properties, that we are going to see a different Superman than what JJ is putting in his reboot version of the Big Boy Wonder, Big Blue Wonder, whatever you want to call him. This I feel like is kind of evident. I feel like we've even touched on this in news before, without them coming out and saying that in so many words. So, likelihood that there's truth to this one? Yeah, I'm going to put this at about 80%. Very, very surprised if they use the same Superman in this Batman movie as they do in JJ's Superman movie. And then we're moving on to continuing along these Warner Brothers rumors, and we're going back to this Warner Brothers Discovery situation. The Snyderverse inevitably has returned. If you did not see this one coming, you have not been paying attention. Because apparently people like their poop shiny. You can polish a turd all you want. It's still gonna stink like poop. The Snyderverse, or the Snyder cut, was a better movie than the Whedon cut. Not gonna argue that. But is that Batman? Is that the Batman you know and love from the mythology you've spent so much money supporting and engaging with? Is that the Superman you know and love? No, not really. Is that the Wonder Woman you know and love? No, not at all. Not any one of those three characters is not faithfully recreated, even in the Snyder version. Because when you start with a base of broken, you cannot build a universe around something that is broken. It's just not going to work. And that's what they've done. Man of Steel is broken on so many levels that the rest of the Snyderverse also is broken inherently. It is what it is. So, back to the rumor. Sorry, I went off on my little soapbox tangent there. We're climbing down off that thing, and we're going to talk about rumors. Snyderverse revival, because now that the Discovery merger, things are changing so we can get our... No. Zack Snyder has said it's not going to happen. I'm going to believe the man for what he has said. Now, in the past, I have been wrong on Snyderverse related things, but there is a difference between then and now. Then, he didn't rule it out. Now, he has. So there you go. I will put this at a generous 10% likelihood that we will see a revival of the Snyderverse with the Discovery merger. Next, we are talking back in the Mortal Kombat camp. This time we're talking about the sequel to the movie. We know the sequel is going to happen. We know that Johnny Cage is going to be in the sequel. We have heard plenty of rumors about who is going to play Johnny Cage. We've heard The Miz from the WWE. We've heard Ryan Reynolds, because it's Ryan Reynolds and he wants it, so why not let him? There was another one that I can't remember. Oh, John Cena was the other one. Oh, again, kind of makes sense. I can see all three of those guys being a pretty good, if not fantastic, Johnny Cage. This new rumor, though, puts a different spin on the character of Johnny Cage. Charlie Hunnam is the new one to be rumored to be playing the role of Mr. Cage himself, Mr. Making fun of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Very interesting. Charlie Hunnam, for those that don't know, was Jax on the Sons of Anarchy series, and then played Arthur in that god-awful Guy Ritchie King Arthur movie. That's an interesting choice. Now, I know a lot of you other Mortal Kombat fans are assuming I'm going to shoot this one down, but hear me out. We went with some interesting choices as far as Kano was concerned. As far as, honestly, Jax, when Mehcad Brooks was originally cast, I was like, I don't know if that dude can handle the physique of Jax, and then he got big. So that was an interesting one. Mehcad Brooks, I would put in a similar acting class as Charlie Hunnam. So there's, just because the minor notoriety there, actually Hunnam probably has a little bit more notoriety even. So it seems like he is approximately the class of actor that they are looking for in order to compare to the rest of the cast. Ludi Lin, most of the Asian American or just Asian actors in the movie were stuntmen before, or just martial artists. So, like, it's just an interesting thought process. Now, we haven't really seen Hunnam in a whole lot of comedy, and Johnny Cage is definitely a comedic character. So, how will that play? We shall see. Likelihood that Hunnam is the one they're looking at. This one honestly seems more likely than the rest, because I bet he's cheaper than at least John Cena and Ryan Reynolds, and he has more experience than The Miz, so like that puts him in this weird sweet spot of very much potential. I'm going to put this right about 65%, and I feel like that's even a little low. So yeah, we're looking 65% likelihood that Hunnam, and now it's not saying that Hunnam is going to be casted, but that they're looking at Hunnam or somebody like him. So yeah, I'll even bump that up to 75. We're going to give it a 10% bump. 75% likelihood, because I just talked myself into it, that Hunnam or somebody very similar to Charlie Hunnam is going to be Johnny Cage for the next Mortal Kombat movie. And now we are to our very last piece for the entire episode, and that is the rumor around Black Cat. We have been keeping tabs on these rumors as they have been going for approximately 2 years at this point. At one point, there was going to be this whole side universe over on Sony for all of the characters in the Spider-Verse, villains and heroes alike. Now, a lot of that has been pared down because lofty goals are lofty for a reason. They're not meant to be achieved. So at one point we had Black Cat, and then there was a separate Silver Sable movie, and then they put the two together, and for a long time that's what they were going with. They had scripts in the works and so on and so forth, and then very ceremoniously, let's be honest, it got dropped because things changed direction, the relationship with Marvel sours for a minute, all kinds of craziness happens. But now it seems like they're slowly building back to those lofty goals one more time, and Black Cat is back on the table. This time, the rumor says, though, that they're going with a cheaper writer and director. Apparently, the same person for both jobs. The director, the person that they are choosing or potentially have chosen, has not been named, so we have no way to compare their previous works or anything like that, but we do know that they are an indie style or an indie director of some sort, according to the rumor. That's all we really know according to this, so I don't know, it seems a little early, or even just not good timing is probably a more appropriate way of saying that. Introducing a brand new character into this spiderless universe, when you have very potentially a Sinister Six series coming, we have the Venom movie coming, potentially a third Venom movie going to be in the works very, very soon, Spider-Man in the works, unless we can get an introduction to this character in one of those projects, this seems very, very unlikely to me. I'm going to put the likelihood that Black Cat will be turned into an actual movie by Sony within the next 2 years? Right about 30%. There is a bit of a possibility. There's got to be a little bit of Tetris played in order to get us there. Some Dr. Mario pills have to be dropped on some things, but it is inside the realm of possibility. So, 30% there, and that, nerds, is the rumor mill. It's also the end of the episode, so what did I miss? What should we talk about in the next one? Let me know in the comments down below. If, though, you want to go deeper in the conversation, jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net, patreon.com/generallynerdy to support more directly and to get, honestly, I've started doing some more writing, so you're going to be getting those short stories. You're going to be getting those chapters as they come out if you are part of the Patreon, so go check it out. All of that being said, thank you very much, nerds. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, do the things, because this is the YouTubes and that's the way it works, and it's free. Why not do it? It's free, it's easy, and it helps me a ton. So thank you once again, nerds. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.